Welcome to The Real Debrief, the show where we dive deep into the world of film production, exploring the genres you love, the projects making waves, and the trends shaping the industry. We're here to give you a 360-degree review for entertainment professionals. So grab your popcorn and get ready for some expert insights. And, well, the occasional bed joke from Talen. It's The Real Debrief. Now your hosts, Talen and Lisa.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the show. I'm Talen, and today we've got something incredibly moving and thought-provoking to explore. We're diving into the life of Patrice Jetter, the subject of a powerful documentary called Patrice, the Movie. Directed by Ted Passion, it's more than just a film about one person. It's about love, creativity, the right to live with dignity, and the systemic barriers that many people with disabilities face every day. I'm thrilled to have Lisa here with me to break it all down. Welcome back, Lisa.
Thanks, Talen. I'm really looking forward to today's discussion. Patrice, the movie, has so many layers. It's not just a story about one couple's love. It's a window into the broader challenges faced by disabled people when navigating relationships, government policies, and the fight for autonomy. It touches on everything, from marriage equality for people with disabilities to creative expression. And I think there's a lot we can learn from Patrice and her journey.
Absolutely. What really struck me about the film was its focus on how even something as fundamental as marriage can be a source of difficulty when you're reliant on government benefits. Patrice and Gary Wickham, her partner, want to get married, but doing so would mean risking the loss of essential financial support. That's where the documentary really hits home. It's not just a story about a woman fighting for independence, it's a critique of the very systems that are supposed to help, but in many cases, hold them back.
Exactly. This so-called marriage penalty is at the heart of the film. For those who aren't familiar, it's a set of policies and programs like Supplemental Security Income, or SSI, and Medicaid that can penalize people with disabilities for getting married or living with a partner. Essentially, if two people who receive disability benefits decide to marry or cohabitate, they risk losing some or all of their financial assistance, even though their cost of living may not decrease. This forces couples like Patrice and Gary into a horrible choice: marry the person you love or keep the financial security you depend on.
Yeah, that's right, Lisa. And this isn't just an abstract problem, it's real. Immediate issues for couples like Patrice and Gary. The documentary does a great job of showing the emotional toll this takes. You can see how much they love each other and how much they want to live together, but they're forced to remain in this legal limbo because of these outdated policies.
And the absurdity of it all is highlighted by their friend Elizabeth Dicker, who points out that it doesn't make sense for the government to penalize people for getting married. It's not as though allowing them to keep their benefits would cost the system anything more. In fact, critics argue that these policies are relics from a time when people with disabilities were expected to live in institutions or under the care of family members, rather than having independent lives, let alone getting married.
Exactly. It's frustrating because you see how outdated these policies are, and yet they continue to have very real, very negative impacts on people's lives. But what makes Patrice's story even more compelling is that despite these challenges, she continues to live a full, creative life. I was really struck by her passion for art and design. For over 20 years, she's been building an intricate model train world based on Palisades Amusement Park, a place that was close to her heart as a child.
Yes, and the way the film weaves her artwork into the narrative is just beautiful. You can see how this model train world is not just a hobby for her. It's a form of expression, a way to channel her thoughts, feelings, and experiences. The film even incorporates her drawings into its production design, which adds a whimsical, almost dreamlike quality to certain scenes. It's reminiscent of Wes Anderson's style, with those stylized flashbacks and the child actors playing younger versions of Patrice.
That's what I loved about those moments in the film. The way it shifts between reality and this more artistic, almost fantastical representation of her inner world was done so well. It makes you appreciate Patrice, not just as someone fighting for her rights, but as an artist, as someone who uses creativity to navigate the complexities of her life. And I think it's important that we don't overlook that aspect of her story. Creativity and art are such vital outlets for people. And for Patrice, it's a way to assert control and find joy in a world that often limits her.
Exactly. That's one of the things that really stood out to me. How her creative pursuit, her love for Gary, and her advocacy work are all part of who she is. She's not just defined by her struggles. She's a multi-dimensional person, and the film does a fantastic job of showing that. Even as she faces systemic barriers, she finds ways to keep moving forward, to keep creating, and to keep loving.
And speaking of advocacy, we see throughout the film how much Patrice is dedicated to not just improving her own situation, but fighting for the rights of others in the disability community. She's a disability rights advocate, and she's constantly pushing for changes in the system. Her story, as the film presents it, is a part of a larger narrative about the need for systemic reform.
Yes, and it's frustrating because even though Patrice is working so hard to make these changes, the political fight remains unresolved. You can feel that tension throughout the film. The sense that she and Gary are stuck in this bureaucratic mess and they're not alone. There are so many other couples out there who are facing the same impossible choices because of these outdated policies. And it's heartbreaking because you just want to see them win to get the life they deserve together.
Absolutely. And yet, even though the film doesn't offer a neat resolution, it leaves us with a sense of determination. Patrice and Gary's fight isn't over and they're not giving up. It's a powerful reminder that change is possible, but it requires sustained effort and advocacy.
And that's what makes the film so impactful. It's not just about one couple's fight, it's about a system that needs to change. The fact that Patrice and Gary are still fighting for their right to live together without losing their benefits is a call to action for all of us. It's a reminder that we need to advocate for better policies that support people with disabilities, rather than penalizing them for wanting to live full, independent lives.
Right. And while their political fight remains unresolved, there is one part of the film that has a heartwarming resolution. Patrice's campaign to raise money for a new van. I mean, this van is essential for her to commute to work, and watching her work so hard to raise the funds for it is just inspiring. It's a small victory in the grand scheme of things, but it's such a meaningful one for her.
That was one of my favorite parts of the film. Watching her succeed in getting that van was such a victory, and you could see how much it meant to her. It's a reminder that even in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges, there are still moments of triumph, still reasons to celebrate.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's a perfect example of how Patrice keeps moving forward, even when the odds are against her. She's constantly finding ways to maintain her independence and live life on her own terms. And that's truly inspiring. Her story really makes you reflect on the importance of autonomy and the freedom to make your own choices.
For sure. And for many of us, that's something we take for granted. But for Patrice, and for so many others with disabilities, that freedom is constantly under threat. It's a stark reminder that the systems we have in place need to be reformed. People should be able to love, create, and live without having to worry about losing the basic support systems that keep them afloat.
Yeah, that's why films like Patrice the movie are so important. They shine a light on an issue that many people might not be aware of, and they give a voice to those who are often marginalized or overlooked. Patrice's story is just one example of the larger systemic issues at play, but it's a powerful one that forces us to confront the ways in which our society can do better.
Exactly. And it's also a reminder of the importance of representation in media. Seeing someone like Patrice on screen, living her life, fighting for her rights, and pursuing her passions is crucial. It helps normalize these conversations and shows that people with disabilities are not just defined by their challenges. They are full, complex individuals with dreams, desires, and talents.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I feel like that is such an important point, Lisa. Representation matters, and Patrice's story is a testament to that. The more stories like hers we see, the more we can challenge the outdated perspectives and systems that limit people's potential. It's about creating a more inclusive and equitable society.
And I think that's what makes Patrice the movie so special. It's not just about the hardships, it's about hope, creativity, and resilience. Patrice faces so many barriers, yet she keeps moving forward. She keeps creating, she keeps loving, and she keeps advocating. And that's something we can all keep fighting for. She's such an embodiment of resilience and determination, and her story shows us that no matter how difficult the fight, it's worth continuing. The documentary might not give us all the answers or a clear resolution, but it provides a window into the world of people who are forced to battle systems that should be working for them, not against them.
Yes, exactly. That's what makes Patrice the movie so compelling. It doesn't offer easy solutions because the reality is that these solutions are complicated and they take time. But it gives us a glimpse into the day-to-day struggles that people like Patrice face, and it forces us to confront the systemic inequalities that make their lives harder than they need to be. Watching this film made me realize just how important it is for us to stay engaged with these issues. It's not just about being sympathetic, it's about being active and advocating for change.
That's a really important distinction, Talen. Sympathy alone doesn't change the world. It takes action, advocacy, and a commitment to standing alongside people like Patrice in their fight for equality and autonomy. And this documentary makes it clear that it's not just about helping individuals. It's about changing a system that's failing so many people. The fact that marriage, something so fundamental, can threaten someone's financial security and independence is a sign that our policies are broken and need to be rethought.
Absolutely. And what's striking is that this issue, as common as it is, isn't something we talk about enough. We often hear about disability rights in terms of accessibility or employment, but the marriage penalty is something that doesn't get nearly the attention it deserves. And yet, as we see in Patrice the movie, it has such a profound impact on people's lives. It forces couples like Patrice and Gary to choose between their love and their livelihood, which is just heartbreaking.
It is, and I think the film does a great job of making that emotional impact clear. You can feel the love between Patrice and Gary, but you can also feel the weight of the decisions they have to make. It's not just a bureaucratic issue, it's deeply personal. Their love is real, and they want to build a life together. But the system is standing in their way. And it's not just about them, it's about all the other couples in similar situations who are facing the same impossible choices.
Right. And that's what makes their story so universal. Even though it's specific to their circumstances, it speaks to a much larger issue of how we as a society treat people with disabilities. Are we giving them the support they need to live a full, independent life, or are we creating barriers that keep them from thriving? Watching Patrice the movie makes it clear that we have a long way to go in terms of disability rights and policy reform.
And it's not just about the policies, it's about the way we think about disability. So often people with disabilities are seen as people who need to be taken care of, rather than people who can contribute to society and live independently. But as we see with Patrice, she's an advocate. She's an artist. She's a Special Olympics athlete. She's so much more than just someone who needs help. And that's why these policies are so frustrating. They don't recognize the full humanity of people like Patrice.
Yeah, exactly. It's about dignity and respect. And Patrice deserves both. Her creativity, her advocacy, and her love for Gary are all testaments to her strength and resilience. And while the film does a great job of showing her struggles, it also celebrates her triumphs. Her model train world, for example, is such a beautiful representation of her creativity and passion. It's a reminder that even in the face of adversity, people can still find joy and fulfillment in their own unique ways.
That's one of those things I loved most about the film. It didn't just focus on the challenges. It also showed us the beauty of Patrice's world. both in her relationship with Gary and in her creative pursuits. Her model train world, based on Palisades Amusement Park, is such a joyful expression of who she is. And the way the film incorporates her drawings into its visual storytelling is just brilliant. It adds this whimsical, dreamlike quality to certain scenes that really helps us understand how Patrice sees the world.
Yes, the film does such a great job of blending the real with the imaginative. Those Wes Anderson-style flashbacks where child actors play younger versions of Patrice are not just visually stunning, they're also deeply personal. You can tell that this is how Patrice processes the world around her, through her art and creativity. And it's a reminder that even in the midst of all the difficulties she faces, there's still room for joy, for imagination, and for self-expression.
Exactly. And that's what makes Patrice's story so inspiring. It's not just about the obstacles she faces, it's about how she overcomes them. Even as she fights for her rights and navigates this incredibly frustrating system, she still finds ways to create, to love, and to live life on her own terms. And that's something we can all learn from, regardless of our circumstances.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Patrice's story is a testament to the power of resilience and creativity in the face of adversity. And it's a reminder that while the system may be broken, there's always hope, right? Patrice and Gary haven't given up, and neither should we. Their fight is far from over, and it's up to all of us to advocate for the changes that will allow people like them to live full, independent lives without having to make these impossible choices.
That's such an important takeaway, Talen. This film isn't just a story, it's a call to action. It's a reminder that we have a role to play in advocating for a more just and equitable society. Whether it's supporting disability rights organizations, pushing for policy reform, or simply educating ourselves and others about these issues, there's so much more we can do to help create a world where people like Patrice don't have to fight so hard just to live their lives.
Yes, thank you. That was very well said, Lisa. And you know what? I think that's a perfect note to end on. Patrice the movie is such a powerful film, and I encourage everyone listening to watch it if you haven't already. It's a story that will stay with you long after the credits roll. And it's a reminder of the work that still needs to be done.
Absolutely. And if you're interested in learning more about the issues discussed in the film or how you can get involved in disability advocacy, we'll have some resources linked in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll be back next week with another episode.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Take care, and remember, change starts with all of us.
This has been The Real Debrief. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, like, rate, and review. We'll see you soon on The Real Debrief.